You found the skeleton. How would you tell it was dinosaurs? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on this.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts number 94. We're finally done, because after this one, we're finally done with this video with Tim Clary, not Tom Clary, and Ivana Semide, I think? Look, I'm sorry, Ivana. I don't know exactly how to say your last name, and probably not going to fix it next time in the next, minutes. So, it's not going to change. I'm, of course, joined by Vishanti. Vishanti, how are you doing?
Wow, it was a very interesting week, full of various setbacks. But I slept somewhat okay. I actually had a nightmare last night for the first time in a very, very, very long time. So I woke myself up by biting through the arm of some guy that was trying to kill me, but it was like a ghost, like when they're intangible, you know. And I woke up and I was just like, not sure what prompted that. But
I'm the asshole who's now making you go through Creationist stuff after already having had a nightmare.
Right. Thanks.
Oh, goodness. Well,
but I will say, yesterday, notwithstanding the nightmare, yesterday was a very productive day for me, so I went to a local cemetery to visit the graveside of a relative I've never met because they died in infancy, and it was a very important mission that my aunt gave me to reunite some of the cremated remains of my grandmother with her first child. So I had a little mini Dia de Muertos little thing at the graveside, and yeah, it was kind of emotional. So yeah,
that's awesome.
I helped make their days better and fulfilled a promise that I made in the spring. So
keeping promises is important.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what are we here for? Well, we are here to, for those of you who might not know, might be new, we have had a whole lot of new subscribers in the channel, so you never know. I think in the past week or so, we've added about 250 subscribers. So, you know, new people.
Dang!
Well, it turns out that a couple of videos of mine did quite well. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to take a look at basically creationist nonsense. Usually creationist nonsense. Sometimes it's something else, but it's usually creationist nonsense. In this case, it's Timothy Clary. Timothy Clary is telling us about how birds aren't dinosaurs, dinosaurs didn't have feathers, we don't have any fossils of dinosaurs with feathers, which, Vishanti, I feel like you yourself have firsthand witnessed. That is incorrect. Yeah.
Well, it's like I told you before we started. Their entire argument in young Earth creationist circles is birds are defined as dinosaurs and we don't like that, therefore they're not.
Yeah. Roshana Ice Canopy Greenhouse Keller for $4.99 says, same demon attack Vishanti that attacks Tucker Carlson. Oh yeah, did you hear that Tucker Carlson is apparently a survivor of a demonic attack?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he was on, I don't know what the venue was, but yeah, he told this whole story about how he was being, actually it might have been the Madison Square Garden rally, where yeah, he was under demonic attack and he had to fight it off, and it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, buddy.
I mean, I'm used to hearing that from like Pentecostals and more charismatic-y Southern Baptists. I'm
pretty sure Tucker Carlson is just okay. Look, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and maybe I'm being uncharitable, but Tucker Carlson does not strike me as the most trustworthy or honest of sources of information. I base this on the fact that when his company was sued over the things he said, that the defense that his lawyers came up with, or the corporate lawyers came up with, was, this guy is so ridiculous, and it's such an obvious parody that no reasonable person would ever take Tucker Carlson seriously. So, when Tucker Carlson says, something happened to me, I don't believe him. That doesn't necessarily mean I disbelieve him, because those aren't the same thing, but I don't believe him. Especially if it seems unusual. But anyway, we're going to talk about Timothy Clary and his dinosaur thing. So, we do have the drinking rules in progress. We're not going to go over all of them, but do remember, if you want to make us drink, there are a few ways. One is you can send super chats or milestone chats that have anything to do with Answers in Genesis being a bag of dicks. You can also send super chat or milestone chats that have any of the kaiju emojis. And, of course, gifted memberships help. I am thinking at some point about testing out this new super chat goal feature that YouTube has, but I don't know. Let me know. We'll do a poll that'll run for... Here you go. Would a super chat goal make super chats more fun? And we'll just do yes or no. So, because there's a thing now where you can just set like, here's the goal for the stream. I don't know, that doesn't really do anything other than give you guys like a number to hit. But you know what? Humans like watching number go up. That is
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
People on the internet love winning magic internet points and making numbers go burr, so...
Yep. Look, I have a cookie clicker tab in my browser open right now, and that number is going up. How many cookies do I have right now? 10.31 octodecillion cookies.
Do you remember the button? On Reddit, the button?
No.
Oh, okay. That's your homework to learn the history of the button.
All right, well, let's start in with this. Let's see. Timothy Clare was just telling us how we have skin impressions from T-Rex that don't have feathers. That's true. And then he went from that to, therefore, T-Rex didn't have feathers. That's, I would say, more likely true than not, at least for adult T-Rex. And therefore, the juvenile T-Rex that Ivana saw with downy coating is inaccurate, which is can't get from there to there. That's a non sequitur. And he's now going to tell us how apparently we don't have dinosaurs with feather impressions. So let's go.
Because I found enough skin imprints of it without feathers. Mm-hmm. We have skin imprints of many dinosaurs, and none of them show feathers.
Shanti, you ever seen a dinosaur with remaining bits of skin that maybe had feathers attached?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually pretty easy. We have lots of dinosaurs with skin that some of it has feathers and some doesn't. Yep. So we're just going to take a drink for that. That's just blatant lie. Let's see. Roshan Ice Canopy Greenhouse Keller for $4.99 says, Vice ran into the super chat goal and revealed his feet at the end just to suggest. I will keep that in mind. That apparently foot reveal. I mean, you guys have seen my feet though. You can see them right now. Like they're right there in front of you. How can I reveal my feet if they're on camera this moment? I'm not even wearing shoes. So, Dapper and a mankini for first goal. Look, you are. I'm already wearing nothing but a top hat, a monocle, and a tie. Putting on a mankini would be more clothing. All right.
Yeah, the best you get is these collagen, these hair-like features coming off them.
Okay, so not only is that not true, we've already covered the collagen thing, but we might as well go over it again. So this collagen argument originates, as near as I can tell, from basically like a 2006 paper by Alan Fiducia and some of his buddies, but I think he's the first name on the paper, so we'll just call it Alan Fiducia et fam. So his argument is that because he has been able to produce collagen fibers in a simulated fossilization event, and because he has found things that look like similar fibers on things like ichthyosaur fossils, that therefore identifying these fibrous extensions coming off of dinosaurs like Sinosauropteryx as proto-feathers is unwarranted at this point. Now, Alan Fiducia is, the guy who basically is like, no, birds aren't dinosaurs. There's some other kind of archosaur that we just don't have a fossil record for until birds come around in the Jurassic. And all of your favorite raptors and whatnot are actually just flightless birds. Which, okay. Anyway, like 2 or 3 years later, a paper that has a title something like The Color of a Cretaceous Dinosaur, something like that. You'd have to double check on that. But it came out, and it had a whole bunch of responses to Alan Fiducia. This was almost exactly just a response to Alan Fiducia. And this paper, along with a few other letters to the editor. So let's take a look at some of the problems that were found one of the problems was that the fossil preparator who worked on the ichthyosaur fossil that Alan Fiducia used as an example of collagen fibers being preserved in a fossil came forward in a letter to the editor and said, actually, those are tool marks that I made with my own drill while I was preparing this fossil. Those aren't even fossilized anything. Yeah. So Alan Fiducia's one reasonable case of like, well, maybe this is just collagen fiber. Okay. So then there's like, well, he did experimentally produce it, which, okay, that just means that it's not physically impossible. And then further, a few years later, a new paper came out in which it was found that not only were these fibers definitely integumentary structures and not collagen fibers, but they had preserved melanosomes, including so well preserved that we could tell the difference between melanosomes that had pheomelanin and eumelanin. Pheomelanin is a reddish one. It actually produces a color that's similar to the reddish squares on your shirt there. And eumelanin is the one that is, the one that's making your hair dark. So we can tell which color it was. We can even tell that it had raccoon-like bandit markings over the eyes and rings on its tail. Dinosauropteryx, that is, specifically. So that basically nuked the entire collagen fibers argument from orbit. Because, that's the only way to be sure. And,
yes.
Yeah. So any creationist who's repeating this is in one of two camps. Either they are unaware of the state of the literature and the arguments against collagen fiber, which are extremely conclusive, or they're lying to you. You get to pick which one you think it is, but it's definitely a triangle meme situation. Philip Punk, half dog, half canine for $2 says, motivated reasoning is one heck of a drug. It sure is. It sure is. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Anything with feathers
sorry.
that I've seen.
I almost lost my mind when I was insomnia scrolling last night, and there was this thing where people were being shown images or printed photos of like famous recording artists from like the 80s and 90s, and nobody recognized Rick James. That was disappointing.
Oh, we're getting some triangle memes in the chat. Remember, the triangle meme is you have a triangle up. There's three sides. One is creationist, one is well-informed, and one is honest. And you can pick at most two. You don't have to pick two if you don't want to. You can just pick one or none if you want to. And a lot of creationists that we feature on this seem to have only picked creationists, like Raw Matt or Matt Powell. Who, yeah. Pretty sure they just decided, you know what, I don't need to be smart or honest. I just need to be creative.
Bonacci's like, unity!
All right, here we go.
That we've studied looked at has only been declared as a bird by the bird paleontologists.
Okay, so I want to be clear. When Timothy Clary says the bird paleontologists, he basically means like the 5 guys who are still in the birds are not dinosaurs camp. That's basically
I'm sorry,
it.
I can't stop laughing at bird paleontologists. I'm like,
right. No, I would hope that that's
just paleontologists, but okay.
Well,
okay.
So yes and no. So broadly speaking, paleontology is divided into vertebrate paleontology and invertebrate paleontology. There are a lot more invertebrate paleontologists just because it's way easier to actually get invertebrates to study, and so if you're going through, paleontology program, there's a very good chance you're going to end up doing like your thesis on some kind of invertebrate paleontology. Whatever. But within each of those, right, people have specializations, right? Like, so you'll have a guy who's like, okay, I work on late Jurassic, I don't know, pterosaurs that are pteranodon, or I can't remember what it is, whatever. They'll speak on like monofenestrin pterosaurs from the late Jurassic. That's my specialty. You'll find other people like Alan Fiducia who does specialize in paleoornithology, which is, the study of ancient birds. Record. But the thing is that paleoornithology, by and large, does not buy into the birds are not dinosaurs arguments because they've been soundly defeated. And now, basically, when he says the paleo or the bird paleontologist, by which he means paleoornithologist, what he really means is like a collection of like 5 guys. Not the 5 guys that make you burgers and put way more fries than you're expecting in your bag.
You know what? I would like to personally thank 5 Guys for giving me an almost bottomless supply of French fries every time I go.
Mm-hmm. Although I did have some Cajun fries last night. That was really nice.
Oh, Cajun fries. Mwah.
With a
So
teriyaki chicken sandwich with some tomato and some lettuce.
Man, coming correct.
Well, I ordered it. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do anything. I just want to stay home, order some food.
You know what? Five Guys Cajun fries are one of the only fries on the planet that are actually good cold. Like, you can just eat them
That's
cold without
hard,
them tasting like complete garbage.
hard to accomplish the French fries.
It's very, very. That's like nightmare mode level difficulty. So.
And so the dinosaur paleontologists are trying to push these as, dinosaurs evolving into birds. Mm-hmm. It's really another hoax.
Also, hi, Chesh.
Oh, hey, Chesh. Also, we're going to take a drink for It's Really Another Hoax. So here's the thing. Not even Alan Fiducia is accusing paleontology broadly of being a hoax. He does think that they're biased, and that for that reason they're coming to conclusions that he doesn't think are well supported by the evidence. I mean, virtually everyone disagrees with him, so he's probably wrong about that. But the only person pushing the idea that this is basically... And here's the thing. You can just go look at the fossils. You've got them. You can look at them. You can go to a museum. You might say, well, I don't want to book a museum or trip all the way to China or whatever. Well, okay, great. I don't know what to tell you. The evidence is out there if you want it. I had this exact discussion actually with a dinosaur denier I once debated. Yeah, I debated a couple dinosaur deniers. One of them was some guy who was basically just Alex Jones from Wish, and he was not invited onto my after show. But the woman he was debating with was invited onto my after show because she was actually polite and personable and didn't try to channel Alex Jones. So in the after show, she was like, well, we can't go see any of these things. I'm like, well, yes, you can. You can just go to the museum. And then she was like, well, yeah, but the museum displays are replicas. I'm like, okay, but you can still go see the actual bones. You have to arrange it beforehand, and you're probably going to have to be escorted, but you can go see the back room of the museum. Most people just don't want to because it's just a bunch of bones in drawers. Which isn't fun to look at. But, like, you can go see the original fossils. I've been to the back room of a museum where they were doing fossil preparation.
The true back rooms.
Yeah. And she was like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, but there are all these museums are far away. I might not be able to afford to go to them. It's like, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like,
yeah,
if you
that's
do,
one of those things. It's like, look, if you want to go, you're going to find a way. And also, a lot of libraries will help you get into museums for cheap and sometimes free. Mm-hmm. So that's always worth looking into. Support your local libraries.
Yep. And also, the degree to which someone is willing to go out of their way to actually investigate something like this is also the degree to which they're an actual honest person who's looking. This is the thing, right? A lot of conspiracy theorists, including creationists, are like, well, I'm just a truth seeker. Here's the thing, man. If you're a truth seeker, you would go do what it takes to figure out the actual answer to this, and you'd stop whining about the fact that you can't. I mean, there you go. That's it. We got a $2 super chat from Donald Harabio, who says, I will often ask for a side of mayo and Cajun spice, which is a delicious way to have fries.
Have you ever tried putting tahini on French fries?
I can't say that I have. Is that pretty good?
I mean, I know we put it on fruit a lot, but
that's what almost
try making like Mexican Cajun. Try it with tahini instead.
Okay,
see how that works out.
Like maybe do some like ketchup, mayo, and tahini all mixed together.
I mean, I would say if you fry them, not air fry them, when they're still like tacky, you could sprinkle it and shake it around like salt. Yeah, try that. I mean, you could also add it to a dip. I'm not picky.
Okay. I mean, for me,
that just dawned on me just now because I went to one of the local Northgate markets to buy like dulce, which I'm currently eating, and they had their huge like tahini end cap display, and I was like, huh.
I always think of tahini as something I'm going to put on like a fruit bowl.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Savage, they're evolutionizing our kids. Cobra for $19.99 US says, what I want to know is if they think pterosaurs are also birds, given the presence of branching proto-feathers. Also, Jurassic Park is a conspiracy to turn the dinosaurs gay, by the way of turning frog DNA gay. Okay. You know what? Good for the gay dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are. I'm perfectly happy for the dinosaurs. I mean, a lot of
I don't know they weren't.
We know some modern dinosaurs are gay.
Yeah.
Some very gay dinosaurs out there right now. Do they think pterosaurs are also birds? Not that I have ever seen any creationist argue for. Creationists will use, from what I've seen, and of course there may be exceptions, but from what I've seen, creationists usually call pterosaurs flying reptiles. Some of them do actually think that they're dinosaurs, but those tend to be the less well-informed, like the Kent Hovind, Carl Baugh sort of level. I don't think any of them have ever addressed the fact that we have branching pycnofibers and the degree to which that's just homologous pycnofibers and feathers. I do know that creationist reconstructions of pterosaurs tend to be naked and scaly. The Ark Encounter, despite the fact that we knew that pterosaurs were very much covered in fluff when the Ark Encounter was built, some of their most inaccurate displays are their pterosaurs, which are all just scaly. So they generally seem to ignore that. As for the conspiracy to turn the dinosaurs gay, it seemed to work out for the dinosaurs from Jurassic World Park. So good for them. And way to be progressive there, John Hammond.
Some people have posted recipes for like air fryer tahini sweet potato fries. So other people have had this inspiration. I am excited.
The thing with sweet potatoes is that it's tough to get a good crisp on them because they're very, very, very high in sugar.
Mushy.
And so,
yeah.
So what I have found is actually coat them in a thick cornstarch slurry before you put them in whatever's going to fry them. Then what actually happens is the cornstarch slurry turns into a crispy corn coating for your sweet potato fries.
Interesting.
That's actually what a lot of restaurants
do.
Oh
my god. Apparently, Tahine has a Pinterest recipe for Tahine French fries.
Nice. All right, here we go. This is less nice than Tahine French fries, but
people as I said earlier, verification science. They're verifying what they believe they already know.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you belong to an organization with a statement of faith that says you will not publish things that disagree with our pre-concluded ideas. I am going to take a drink for just the massive amounts of hypocrisy just right there. Like, can you believe these guys are doing confirmation science? Dude, you state that openly all over the place. So here's that drink. Look, I try really hard to assume that the people I talk about in terms of creationism and other pseudoscience nonsense are coming at this in good faith. But when you accuse other people of just looking to confirm their biases while working for an organization that has a publication that pretends to be peer-reviewed, that bars papers with contrary conclusions, I'm sorry, I just can't take you seriously as a good faith interlocutor, or just talker because he's not talking to me. Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, if Lucas had done the movies, they'd be feathered. Does George Lucas really like feathered dinosaurs? I had not heard that. I mean, he might. I don't know. If I had done the movies, they'd be feathered. Instead, Spielberg did them. I just wish he'd been a little bit more concerned with accuracy, and that also his successors in the Jurassic Park franchise had kept up at least his level of concern for accuracy. Roachna Ice Canopy Greenhouse Keller for $1.99 says, put dill pickle seasoning on pizza. So, like, dill and salt and vinegar? What else is there that I'm missing? Because I could see dill on pizza work. I already got plenty of salt. Probably.
Apparently, Wendy's put tahini seasoning on their fries in El Salvador in 2023. So,
every once in a while.
Look, y'all know that we're going to end up talking about food at some point on streams where I'm
true.
I'm included, so
I remember when I was in Dubai, I went to a McDonald's and I tried the macarabia, which was basically a chicken wrap with Middle Eastern inspired spices in like an aioli, and then like some lettuce and tomatoes.
It's good.
So delicious. I was like, this needs to come to the US. And I recognized, I was there with the Navy, I was like, they might need to change the name, but like this item would do well.
Amazing.
Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, Lucas, go back and give them all feathers. I mean, I hope he would. I don't know. I'm just not aware of... I guess he did put all those feathers on that weird lizard creature that Obi-Wan was riding around on what's that planet? Planet where he met General Grievous. And he was like, oh, hello there. General... Whatever. Star Wars. I don't even care about Star Wars anymore.
And they're not really doing objective science. Mm-hmm. They're just thinking, well, this is a feathered dinosaur. This is a, and
that's projection if I've ever seen it.
It's a lot of projection, and here's the thing, right? I have yet to hear a creationist actually start one of these with a definition for dinosaur, so that they can then go and say why these things that they're saying aren't dinosaurs. And I know the reason for that. It's a combination of one, very few of them could give a definition for dinosaur if asked. Just check by debate with Kent Hovind. And two, those who could are in one of two camps. Either they actually accept that there are feathered dinosaurs, like Marcus Ross and Matt McLean, two creationists with paleontology credentials. I don't want to call them paleontology. What?
Apparently, HEB has dill Cheetos. So I'm gonna need some of y'all in Texas to hook me up.
Maybe they're on Amazon. Maybe you can put them on your wish list. So that's Matt McLean and Marcus Ross are in the camp of like, yeah, we know what a dinosaur is, and these are obviously feathered dinosaurs. The only other option is that you have creationists who do know what a dinosaur is, and just don't want to define it because they know if they actually define dinosaur in a way that is actually anyway like what the scientific community uses, it'll become very obvious that these things are dinosaurs. So, again, I don't know if Timothy Clary knows what a dinosaur is. Because he's not a paleontologist, he's a geologist. And by his own statements, the only time he's really looked into paleontology per se is when he wanted to incorporate some aspects of paleontology into his geology classes that he teaches at what's basically a fake school. And by that, I mean it's a school that offers science degrees, but that is also a pseudoscience promoting school. So it's sort of like getting your cartography or your geography degree or something from like Flat Earth University. It's like, is that a real thing? Kind of. Maybe you learned something. I don't know. Mr. Cliff.
I mean, it is equally dumb because the Flat Earth app uses globe math in order to track the other users. So
yeah, it will never not be one of the best things in the world to me that someone got the source code for Flat Earth Dave's Flat Earth app, and the way that the friend finder works is by determining the radius around you using the Haversine formula. Which, in case you guys don't know, is a formula for finding distance on a sphere of a given radius if you have latitude and longitude coordinates. Which is just chef's kiss, right? Mr. Cliff for £2 says, if Lucas had done the movies, they'd be Ewoks. Now I need someone to redo Jurassic Park, at least a few of the dinosaur shots, which is...
I mean, Owl Kitty replaces dinosaurs with cats, so why not?
Yeah, that is a fun one. Also, I did see one where someone did, I replaced the T-Rex in the Jurassic Park with a realistic T-Rex. It was actually it looked really good, and two, I don't see why that would make it a worse movie. Guys, just update your dinosaurs and make them accurate.
I was going to say, can you link that to me at some point? I would like to see that.
Yes. I will try to remember that. If I don't remember it, you can yell at me later.
Okay.
Got a few things.
That's if I remember.
Well, yeah, Hey, everyone else. If in like 5 hours I haven't sent Vishanti anything, you guys can yell at me. Cognitive Trifurcation says, which would you rather have a degree from? Patriot Bible University or Peanut Butter University? So, here's the thing. Even creationist schools and diploma mills, like, okay, what does having a diploma mill degree? That you spend some money on a piece of paper. So it's one of those, like, would I rather have a degree from it? Am I getting a free degree? In which case, I'll get one from the one that sounds like a school. Patriot Bible University sounds like a school. Peanut Butter U does not. So I'll take the Patriot Bible. But I also want to point out that just because a school is teaching creationism, it does not mean that all of their degree programs are just trash, right? Like, you can get a perfectly fine humanities degree or business degree or something like that from a Christian school that's teaching young Earth creationism, because those aren't the same thing. And so I am not someone who says we should just completely get rid of the accreditation of creationist schools. I would, my personal take, which is sort of a midway point from what I've seen, is that I would like the ability of creationist schools to issue STEM degrees removed. And so they can't do science, technology, or math, or engineering. Maybe they can keep math, I don't know. But yeah, I would not like them to be giving those, because if you are applying for a job that requires an actual STEM degree, and you came from a creationist school, there is a 100% chance you were taught absolute nonsense about science, how science works, about all sorts of craziness. Roshna rock shaped like dill pickle for $4.99 says you can decompile the Android APK to get the strings and maths used in the Flurfer app. That does not surprise me. I am not a programmer or a coder, but from what I understand, that app might be one of the least secure things ever put on any like app store.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Like, apparently, all you need is a URL, and you can just spoof yourself as anyone else. You can change people's sexual orientation on the dating side of the app. You can steal people's crypto.
Of course, there's a dating side of the app. Of course, there is.
Okay, but here, to be fair, though, let's say you're a flat earther. That's going to cut most of the population out of your dating pool, and pretty much the only people who are going to be left who are going to want to date you after they know you're a flat earther or other flat earthers. So I get it. Because otherwise you're just not going to find anyone.
Shout out to CC's wife. I don't know how she does it.
Well, in part, she did it by getting married to him before he became a flat earther. That's a big part of it. They were married beforehand. Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, creationist school, pi equals 3. Not the worst approximation for pi I've ever seen.
I mean, it's pretty damn close. If
is.
you're living, 3,000 years ago, how would you measure the difference between 3 and 3.1?
I guess it depends on how big the thing you're actually measuring is, but yeah, generally speaking, it would be pretty hard in most cases.
So it's perfectly fine until we get, the tools that allow us to be more precise.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to come up with 3.14159.265.
Well, you probably would have come up with an approximate fraction because decimals weren't invented yet.
Enough that they're going to get the public to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's really just a lie. There's no evidence
drink.
that dinosaurs had feathers. Only that birds had feathers.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no evidence that
Dinosaurs. Oh my god, birds are dinosaurs. This guy is
Yeah,
so dumb.
The problem is that when you say that, you're setting it up as if there's a dichotomy that doesn't necessarily exist, right? So if you're trying to argue that birds aren't dinosaurs, and then you say everything with feathers is a bird, that doesn't actually make birds not dinosaurs. Watch this. Everything with a blowhole is a whale. Okay? Humans and bears...
Dolphins have entered the chat.
Yeah, I would say dolphins are a kind of whale. For me, whale just means cetacean. So for me, dolphins, porpoises, killer whales, narwhals, all fall under the whale category. So if I say we've only found blowholes on whales, and anything with a blowhole is a whale. And then I say, now bears and humans and kitty cats and dogs and moose and springboks and, I don't know, echidnas, none of those have blowholes. Therefore, mammals don't have blowholes. Therefore, whales aren't mammals. That's an identical argument. And we also have an identical situation in which we have fossil whales that don't have blowholes, but have the nostril moving farther and farther back up and toward the back and top of the head. Which means we have a full transitional sequence for the formation of blowholes, just like we do for feathers. And nope, I'm just going to deny it. And I'm going to cut some of those archaeocetes. And on one side I'm going to say this is all whale, not mammal at all. And the rest of them are all mammal and not whale at all. I'm going to have other people who have the same basic position, but they're going to disagree with me on where to draw that line. That's the situation that creationists are in, not only for birds and dinosaurs, but also for humans and apes. It's all the same arguments, and it always fails. At no point do they actually give definitions. Like, standing for truth, Donnie Badinsky, that dude has had a standing challenge for like 7 years to define what a human is in a way that allows people to actually look at a skeleton and determine if it's a human in an objective fashion. Hasn't even approached it. I think the best came up with was... Actually, I'm not sure if he's come up with anything. He might have said the chin at one point, which might work, except that would then restrict the label to Homo sapiens, and he thinks a whole lot of other things like Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalensis are humans. So I suppose I should say he's yet to actually come up with a definition for human that puts everything he wants to be in the human bucket. So, I mean, there's that. And yeah, it's the same thing. Why doesn't the Creation Museum define what they mean by human, other than saying, well, it's a descendant of Adam and Eve, which isn't helpful if you're just looking at a skeleton. Because they can't. Because anything they choose would include things that they don't want to include, or exclude things that they want to include. It's the same thing with dinosaur. And the only reason they don't do it with mammal and bats, or mammals and whales, is because those things are so widely held that they would seem crazy if they opted out to deny that. Because most people actually know what those animals are.
Change into birds, evolved into birds whatsoever. There's no ancestors even to the dinosaurs when you look at the rock record. They just show up.
Let's take it
That's
there.
just a lie.
Yep.
That's just a lie.
The Triassic is actually full of various ornithodiran, not quite dinosaurs, like Lagasucids, Poposaurids, all sorts of things like that. Right? Lots of animals that are almost but not quite dinosaurs in various groups like Dinosauromorpha, Dinosauriformes, Dracohores, all of which are just different groups that include dinosaurs, but also other animals that aren't actually dinosaurs. So, we actually have a whole lot of pre-dinosaur archosaurs that are on their way towards being dinosaurs. You can see they have some of the characteristics of dinosaurs, but not all of them. Because remember, what it takes to be transitional is to have mosaic in which you retain certain ancestral features that are lost in the later group, while having some of the new features of the later group that are supposedly, evolved later on. When you have this mix, you're transitional. You have transitional dinosaurs that are a transition between basal archosaurs and dinosaurs. And we even have basal to archosaurs. We have archosauromorphs, things like Euparkeria. Isn't quite an archosaur, but it's getting there. We have a great fossil record for dinosaurs in general, especially given how old they are. Yeah, that's just a lie. And the only reason I think he can tell it is because he knows his audience hasn't heard names like Lagasucus. Like, Shanti, if I asked you to draw Lagasucus, could you draw one?
No.
Exactly. You don't know what that is. So if I tell you, oh, well, what about Lagasucus? For most people, that's just going to be I don't know. What about it? What is it? That's why he can get away with that.
Fully formed, ready to go. Mm-hmm. And you go through the different levels because you bury different animals that maybe lived at different levels or couldn't fly as long, and they get buried on those different levels. And
remember that the fossil record does not actually follow an order of increasing elevation, which it would have to for his idea. His idea is basically ecological. And the fossil record doesn't work like that. You get low-level or low-lying fossils all the way up near the top. And think about this. One of the most famous dinosaur fossil-bearing formations in North America is the Hell Creek Formation. The Hell Creek was a coastal, swampy area with braided channels full of things like horsetails. Like, not the thing from the horse, the actual plant. You know what a horsetail is, right, Vishanti?
Again?
The horsetail, you know what that is, what that plant is? Like I said, hey, here's a horse. Okay. I'm asking because if you don't know, then probably a good chunk of the audience doesn't know, and then I should go into more depth. But it's got things like horsetails and mosses and other low-lying things, and it's also got things like turtles, alligators, crocodiles, aquatic choristoderans. There we go. Fish, crustaceans, shellfish, like bivalves. Were they living on top of a mountain? Were these mountain bivalves? Were these mountain horsetails? I don't think so. Maybe
No, because the flood just moved the water across like the top of mountains, and then the mountains lifted up high. They were way lower.
Well, that's great.
The dumb logic.
But the thing is, that would then still keep the whole ecological zonation thing from happening, because you would then just get a jungle. That's not what we see. Pillpunk, half dog, half canine for $5 says, you don't need precise definitions when you use the you know it when you see it method. I mean...
Argument from looks like...
Yeah, and the thing is that that's an actual creationist thing. They come up with a technical term for that called the Cognitum. The Cognitum is just fancy creation speak for, well, it doesn't look like it to me.
Okay.
Yep. So,
okay.
The Ark Encounter uses the family level for most kinds, for most groups. But, despite the fact that sheep and goats and cows are all in the same family, Bovidae, Answers to Genesis likes to separate out sheep and goats as one kind and cattle as another kind. And their excuse is, well, people kind of think of them as different kinds of animals. Oh, okay. Sure.
Oh, so we just let non-specialists, dictate entire fields. Okay.
Like your average English speaker wouldn't use the same word for these animals, so we should probably separate them into different kinds. That's their entire reasoning, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a fancy way to say, well, I don't actually want to have to do any work. I just want to kind of eyeball it and go with that. Which, that's not how science works. When you just kind of eyeball it and go with that, you come to conclusions like the Earth is the center of the universe and flat, and also heavy things fall faster than slow things. How many of those things are correct? None. How many of them were widely believed by people who were just kind of going with what seemed right? All of them. In fact, it still requires convincing today to teach kids that heavy things don't fall faster.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's just completely counterintuitive.
You got to convince them of these things. All right.
The record is really just a record of the flood's destruction as the levels went higher and higher and higher. Animals, different.
Savage, they're evolutionizing our kids' Cobra for $1.99 says Leviathan, the Highland sperm whale. Yes. For those of you who don't know, Leviathan is, yes, in fact, named after Leviathan. And it is a ancient sperm whale that managed to have teeth on both of its jaws, not just the bottom jaw. Take that, modern sperm whale. And it was gigantic and probably horrifying for anything that had to go up against it. All right.
Different plants. You go higher, you get different animals, different plants. It doesn't mean that we evolved from dinosaurs into humans.
Right.
We just see the different order of burial in the flood.
Has anyone claimed that humans evolved from dinosaurs?
The original Super Mario Brothers movies did.
Oh, right. But those were like a specific kind of humans, like...
Well, look, Timothy Cleary
there were primate humans and then dinosaur humans.
Timothy Cleary is just getting out of the Mario Brothers truthers. He's getting out in front of them and saying, no, guys.
Of course.
I know what you saw in that movie, but you can't turn a guy into a fungus, and humans didn't evolve from dinosaurs. So...
I love that movie so much.
I do too. It's such a weird movie.
Mario, and Luigi Mario. I mean, how hard is this? Like,
the original script actually had a Nintendo representative coming to the Mario Brothers and asking for their rights, their life story, so they could adapt it into a video game, and that was supposed to tie it into it, like how this actually even makes sense as a Super Mario Brothers movie. And they cut that scene.
Good.
And so now it's just kind of like incomprehensible as to how this is supposed to really tie into Mario, other than a few names. And like the Easter egg of the bonbon that, at one point Mario winds up. Like, other than that, like, there's nothing very Mario about this. Anyway, don't hurt Neo. Oh, sorry.
It's a movie for like kids. It doesn't have to have coherent logic.
It's got some grotesque bits for a movie for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hurt me.
She was cute though.
For $2, yes. For $2 says their books separate sheep and goats. I mean, I separate sheep and goats, right? Like if I go to the grocery store and I want goat versus sheep, I'm gonna go get different kinds of meat, right? They're not the same animal. But the question is, should they be the same quote unquote kind? And by objective definitions that creationists have given, well, okay. By the objective definition that relies on an already arbitrary taxonomy system. The answer should be yes. So, because remember, the question of kinds is never going to be, are these animals that humans use the same word for? Because sometimes humans use the same word for animals that are very different, and they use different words for animals that are virtually the same. Like, how many different names are there for the mountain lion / cougar / catamount? There's that one animal has a bunch of common names. On the other hand, we have things like the puma. On the other hand, we have things like the Falkland Islands wolf, the maned wolf, and the gray wolf. Those are very, very different animals that are not very closely related, and yet they all just get the word wolf slapped on them. So, which I guess is also further evidence of why you probably shouldn't just go off of humans eyeballing it.
From a flood perspective, it all kind of makes sense.
Just drink.
It doesn't really show any evolution. That's exactly what you'd expect in the biblical account of.
I do sometimes wonder. Actually, I don't. I know. If you were to ask a creationist to describe what a transitional fossil would look like, they usually get it right. Right? Maybe not in the exact details, but they usually get right the concept that you would see something that is morphologically intermediate between an alleged ancestor, alleged descendant. And when you ask for, like, specifically in, say, like a human, they'll say things like, well, you know, maybe like a small brain, or a stooped posture, or longer arms relative to leg size, or something like that, right? And then you produce that. And they just... Nope.
No.
Just straight denial. So, when Timothy Cleary says that, I think he might believe it, but only because he's doing a whole lot of work to ignore his cognitive dissonance. Because he has seen transitional fossils between more basal Coelurosaurian theropods and birds. But he's not allowed to say that that's the case. But if you were to ask Timothy Cleary, what would a transitional between a dinosaur and a bird look like? I guarantee you he's going to describe something that looks a whole lot like Sinosauropteryx, Archaeopteryx, or Caudipteryx. And he knows what those things are.
A created world that was ruined by Adam and Eve sinning, and then we've all sinned since. We all need, we need the Savior.
That's right, everybody. The fossil record is a metaphysical problem.
We need Jesus. We all need to realize that God not only provided opportunity for us to get our sins forgiven, but he had that planned out from the very start. And that's what the Bible tells us. It's a story of God's love for us so much that he provided salvation, even though we...
Hey, here's the thing, man. I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of theology stuff, right? But Christianity does not need a literal Genesis. Would you like to know how I know?
Because lots of Christians don't believe in a literal Genesis, and they're still good Christians.
Yep. Yeah, there are a lot of faithful, devout, active Christians, both at lay and clergy levels, do not accept that a literal reading of the primeval history, or the primordial history, whatever, in Genesis, is a good way to take that, and that is a literal reading therein is actually the way the world worked. I don't know. Mark Akaboto 1313 Smith for $2 says, hypothetically, would Slenderman be hominidae? So that's one of the problems with supernatural creatures is that because they are products of intelligent design, they tend not to fit nicely into the nested hierarchy of life. It's actually one of the ways you can tell intelligently designed things apart from naturally evolved things, is that they don't tend to fit into nested hierarchies. Or at least not objectively so. So, like, Slenderman, I don't know, what's his skull like? What's in his tooth row? Well, he doesn't have a mouth. Okay, so does he have an actual, like, jaw bone in there? I don't know. What are his orbits like? Well, he doesn't have eyes, so does he even have orbits? I don't know. His shoulder joint seems ape-like. Hands seem ape-like, but apes don't normally have a bunch of tentacles coming out of their back. So, does he have what's his skeleton look like? I don't know. Does he even have a skeleton? So yeah, there's no way to really say. And that's common with invented creatures that are made by humans, at least when the human is not intending to try to fit the creature into a hierarchy. That's why we have all these chimerical creatures. right? Like griffins with the heads of an eagle, except they also have ears and like the bodies of lions and whatnot. Like that's not going to fit into a nested hierarchy specifically because it is intelligently designed. In fact, I would argue that the nested hierarchy of taxonomy on its own is enough to say that intelligent design should be dismissed unless you have extremely compelling evidence to the contrary. That sets the default to not intelligent design as far as I'm concerned. Anytime you see a nested hierarchy like that, the default assumption should be not design. That assumption can be overcome. For instance, like I said, if you have a person who's working on like a speculative evolution project and they are intentionally keeping all their creatures within a nested hierarchy because it's a speculative evolution project, okay, well that is a time when you can overcome the presumption that a nested hierarchy is means not design. But I would say anytime you see things that fit into a nested hierarchy like that, the presumption should be natural evolution. Works for languages, works for animals. There you go.
Kept messing up and sinning, even from the very start. But yet the rock record supports everything we see in the Bible, that everything in the Bible is true.
Okay, so let's take a drink here. So the rock record doesn't support the flood at all. In fact, the majority of the rocks on Earth could not have been formed by a flood. Timothy Cleary's flood model itself would turn the Earth into a ball of plasma, not a flooded globe. Let's see. When we get outside of, the early chapters of Genesis, we get into things like Abraham. There's no archaeological or historical evidence outside of the Bible that Abraham is a real person who lived. That's also true of Moses. We have a very good reason to think that there was never an enslaved population of Hebrews in Egypt.
At scale?
At scale, right. Like, was there ever a Hebrew-speaking slave in Egypt? Yeah, almost certainly. Was there a population of millions of them that could themselves pose like a threat to the hegemony of the Egyptians? No. No, there just wasn't. Was there ever a conquest in which now fleeing former Egyptian slaves conquered the land of Canaan, wiping out the previous inhabitants and replacing them with their own groups?
At scale.
Not at scale, yeah. When you look at archaeologically, the occurrence of identifiably Israelite cultural artifacts is just a continuation of pre-Israelite cultural artifacts. There's a continuation in the language, there's a continuation in kinds of pottery, the kinds of building, even the diet. In fact,
almost like they emerged from Canaanites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Israelites just are native Canaanites. They're a particular group
so weird.
that constructed a national identity over the course of certain historical events, like the things that did happen, like the exile. That's a real thing. The Babylonian exile, actual thing. But yeah, when it comes to like the history of where these people came from, they are just an outgrowth of cultural developments in the area. In fact, even things like the taboo on eating pork largely did not spread to most of the Israelite population until after the exilic period. We still find in quote-unquote Israelite villages pig bones going way up into the archaeological record. So, like, virtually nothing in Genesis has any evidence that it's true at all. And that's also true all the way through into basically past Judges. You want to get things that actually have real objective evidence for their truth, you need to get past Judges. And even then, the degree to which we have evidence for them is shaky. Like, do we have evidence that David was a real person? Yes. Do we have evidence of the actual story of, there being a prophecy that he's going to be the next king, and then the old King Saul is going to go out and try to get him, and so the Prince Jonathan is out there to save his life, and he hides in the cave and steals the bread from the temple.
So much.
None of that is corroborated. Does that make it untrue? I don't know. I mean, there could have been a king named Saul who was out to get a guy named David who eventually became the king. But we don't have any evidence of that outside the Bible. Yeah. So basically, until you get to
they even teach this in literally intro to Judaism classes. That there's like mythic, legendary history.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's sort of kind of in small parts verifiable history. Like some locations exist that are named, some people that exist that were named exist. And then there's, hey, we definitely have lots of third-party verification for this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, this is an intro course. So
yeah, and to get to
it's just so bizarre to me, like that mind shift from it's all literal and it definitely happened exactly as printed to, yeah, no, we're just going to be honest and go, look, this is just a collection of our people's legendary and mytho-history tellings. This is showing you the development of our national identity. This is some stuff that happened to us. Some of it's exaggerated, but that's okay. Like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Like,
basically, until you get to Chronicles and 1st and 2nd Samuel, you can be pretty well assured that none of that previous stuff happened. When you get there, that's where you're starting to say, like, maybe some of it. Maybe some of it.
Yeah.
And then when you get
like
later...
Jericho is a city that existed, that is for sure. Yep. It just was uninhabited long before any Israelites got there. So.
When you get to things like Daniel or Esther, you're probably getting into things that, like, there's definitely going to be some legendary stuff added in there, but a lot of those places and names and things are things that happened and people that existed. Like, was there an actual extermination order issued by the king of Babylon? It's a pretty decent chance. It's not that crazy. And it was written not that long after the events, such that, you know, there could very well have been...
Also, a lot of people will be like, well, then why do you use the text? Why do you do this and that together? And it's like, look, there are silly stories that Americans will tell their kids, like, oh, George Washington chopped down a cherry tree and he couldn't tell lies.
Not true.
We know that's fake.
Yep.
That's fake as hell. Does that mean America's not a country and that there's no American national identity? No.
Or that you shouldn't use it as an example of honesty to be aspired to. You can still use it that way.
So it's like, come on, guys. That's not how this works. Did Romulus and Remus actually exist and suckle at the teat of a she-wolf?
Yes.
No.
Oh, I'm going to go
Does that mean that Rome didn't exist and there's no national Roman identity? No.
No, they definitely existed. And then later on,
not how this works.
Aliens from Vulcan named the 2 planets that they conquered after the 2 brothers from Rome that they'd never even heard of. It's a crazy coincidence. But
I know, right? Don't worry about it.
The birds, the dinosaurs, and you can't really mix the two. That's what secular scientists want to do, who don't believe that God created everything.
Secular scientists, aka scientists.
Yeah, let's just take a drink for that one. It's just a poisoning the well thing, like, oh, the secular scientist. Also, I hate the word secular, because it usually just means not religiously affiliated, which is just a stupid thing to point out most of the time. Most things aren't religiously affiliated.
What did I call the statement of faith they have to sign last week?
Was it bias thing?
Bias paper?
Something like that. Bias sheet, maybe?
Something like that. Bias sheet, whatever. I don't remember. It was clever at the time, and then I instantly forgot it. Good job. Love my brain.
Well. But, like, yeah, I don't have a secular grocery store. But on the other hand, I don't expect my grocery store, because I don't think of it as secular, to then just come out and be like, actually, this is a United Methodist grocery store. Thank you. You're welcome to shop here if you're not United Methodist, but it's in fact a United Methodist grocery. Like, that's not a thing that I think about. Most things it doesn't make sense to think of them in terms of secular versus, like, religious, right? Like,
bias sheets. Thank you, Chad.
I had back in Massachusetts, some friends of mine opened up a restaurant. That group of friends happened to be members of the Antiochian Orthodox Church that was, like, up the street. And yeah, they had a few icons up in the restaurant. It wasn't an Antiochian Orthodox restaurant, though. Doesn't mean anything.
Like almost every Mexican restaurant will have a picture somewhere of the Virgin de Guadalupe.
Right.
Does that mean they're all
it's not
Catholic
a restaurant?
Yeah,
no.
It's just a Mexican restaurant where people are saying, hey, this is part of our cultural identity. Like,
similarly, when you go to a physics lab, it's not a secular physics lab. It's just a physics lab.
You have to genuflect before Niels Bohr before you go in
right.
to work. Like, come on, man.
Like, the secular distinction only makes sense in circumstances where there's an expectation that an explicitly religious institution might be expected. So, for instance, because there's such a long history of church-funded schooling, a secular school might make sense as hospitals. Again, because churches and other religious institutions have such a long history of founding and maintaining hospitals, you could make sense to say, well, this is a secular hospital versus this is a Catholic hospital. Whatever. That's when it makes sense. Outside of those few areas, like hospitals, schools, calling something secular almost never actually makes sense. Savage, they're evolutionizing our kids. Cobra for $4.99 says, it's like gin and tonic. Every sapient species has Romulus and Remus in their cultural memory. Okay. There you go.
Oh, man.
That explains it. Also, release the Romulan dictionary, Terry Metalis, who I'm just going to assume is in charge of that.
Listen, if you pester me long enough to where, like, I actually remember this whenever, like, we meet up so I can get the props and stuff that I bought from him, I'll drop it and just be like, hey, my friend and I are, like, really big language nerds, him more so than me, and, yo, where that Romulan dictionary
I
at?
remind you literally every time you bring up Terry Metalis.
Okay, this is true.
Which is not that infrequent.
Eventually, I'll remember. That's just my ADHD fighting against me.
Put it on a sticky note and put it on your computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hang on, I got a sticky pad right now.
While you're doing that, I'm going to hit a little bit more Timothy Clarion.
The global flood, then they have to make up their own story. And unfortunately, their story isn't backed by the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Just drink.
Wow. Well, we are almost finished, but did you have any other thoughts
here we
that you
go.
wanted to share
Other
with
thoughts.
our viewers?
Well, I just don't buy into what you see on the TV and the movies. There's got a lot of movies about dinosaurs.
Or the museums.
I was going to say, well, okay, yeah, movies aren't a great source, but then she was like, or the museums. So, look, because those are different speakers, I'm going to take a drink for agreeing with Timothy Clary. Timothy Clary got something right. Nice. Yeah, you should not get your, like, paleontology information from Hollywood movies. That's not the purpose of them. They're not out there to give you paleontology education. The reason that movies strive for some level of reasonably accurate dinosaurs in their movies when they bother to is because they think that that's what the public perception of dinosaurs is. So really, the accuracy flows downhill from scientists to the general public to the movies. If you want more accurate movie dinosaurs, what you need to do is increase public awareness of accurate paleontological reconstructions of dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, they do respond to scathing reviews of like, wow, this depiction of this thing is really bad and really wrong. People, like, respond to that, and despite what fans may think, studios do pay attention to that, and if you, I guess, vote with your wallet, so to speak, then that makes a bigger impression. So
I mean, there's some ways in which voting with your wallet is a little bit of a fiction, but there are other ways in which it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can actually influence the behavior of certain corporations by determining where to spend your money. Now, could you use that to, say, end the exploitation of third world workers? No, probably not. But could you use it to do things like encourage more accurate dinosaurs in film? Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like for studios and stuff. And plus, like, we're also getting into the Gen X and Xennials who grew up on a lot of much improved education around dinosaurs and paleontology and science and things, so they're putting that in the entertainment, which is nice. So. Yeah.
Also, remember that movie 65? Supposed to be like Adam Driver goes back in time and there's dinosaurs or something. It's a sci-fi movie. I think it came out a few years ago. Well, anyway, the reason I still haven't seen it, one, it didn't get reviewed very well. I wasn't too inclined. But the thing that changed it for me was I saw their pterosaurs, and they just have like eyes at the front of what is actually the nose hole on the pterosaur, and I'm just like, nope, I'm out.
No. It's like Vulpix's, was it? No, it's not Vulpix. Yeah, it is. Half Fox, Half Pokemon says the Ray Harryhausen School of Paleontology. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
Fully upright dinosaur T-Rexes.
To be fair, Ray was working with the information that he had at the time. That is not an excuse that modern filmmakers have. In fact, I quite like Ray Harryhausen. And also, how many other times do you get the
classics?
Yeah, how many? As far as I can tell, Ray Harryhausen is pretty much the only special effects artist to ever get top billing on movie posters. Like,
bring that stuff back for real.
We you don't. I'm going to give you a hint. You know, Paul Enns, he worked on the special effects for the Star Wars prequel trilogy. He didn't get top billing on any of those posters, I promise. Nowhere on any of those posters does it say, special effects by Paul Enns. This is not a thing.
Yeah.
Dono Haramio for $2 says, like bad starscapes in disaster/romance movies. Yeah, although those are usually intentionally bad for the purpose of dramatic effect. And in fact, I'm guilty of that.
I would say that every once in a while you'll get some horror movies that are like, hey, special effects or certain creature design by Tom Savini or Greg Nicotero.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you'll get that, but those are usually like niche.
You used to get
genres,
Jim Henson
so.
as
Oh
pretty high in
yeah.
the billing too.
Oh yeah.
In the museum. And so you're going to see a lot of propaganda in those.
Heresy detected in the chat.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Heresy detected.
You gotta be more specific.
Stephen G. Clenard says, please keep Terry Metalis away from Star Trek.
No.
I vehemently disagree.
As far as I'm concerned, he's the only one who managed to make a good season of Picard. So, yeah.
Listen, I'm just saying this is very anecdotal, but at DragonCon, which is like the highest concentration of nerds in one space for a week, when in casual conversation would say, hey, you guys remember the one good season of Picard? Universally, the response was season 3. And that's Terry Metalis' season. So, just saying that's anecdotal, but, hey, you like what you like. I'm not going to talk you out of it.
Look, it's...
So...
My experience with Picard was giving up about midway through season 1. Having no interest in season 2.
I didn't even make it halfway. Just saying.
I'm not positive I actually made it all the way. Whatever episode it is when they're running through the defunct Borg cube and Romulan Ninja Man is beheading people and Picard is giving him dirty looks about it. That was when I turned it off. I was like, I'm done. I can't. I didn't even bother with season 2 because the plot line sounded utterly uninteresting to me. Like, okay, we're going to go back in time and we're going to have to deal with the cops thinking that our Star Trek characters are illegal aliens in the United States. Like, I get that immigration is a social issue that should be addressed by things like Star Trek, but not necessarily by just having the characters go back in time and deal with the actual current literal issue. That's not normally
like
how you do things in Star Trek.
It's like a really crappy version of DS9.
Yeah, well,
like, you remember the episode where they went
riots?
back and yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like a really crappy retelling of
At least that one was set in that episode's future still. It was supposed to be a future event that happened this past year, But yeah, just going back to the literal current day to deal with current day social issues, I was just like, no, that's too heavy-handed. Because the thing is, I want my Star Trek to have a message. Star Trek has always had messages, right? There's been anti-racist
usually
messages.
Not subtle at all.
No, but
like being
they are
hit in the head with a
usually
sledgehammer. But yeah,
they're usually not just literally the current day issue being dealt with in current day by time traveling Star Trek
with the same
characters.
exact language.
Right.
Yeah, like
it's just
when
like
Enterprise dealt with 9/11, it was like, oh no, they reframed it as the Xindi and all that.
Right. I don't really want to hear Raffi and 7 of 9 running away from ice. Sorry, guys. I don't want that.
That's painful to me.
People want...
But whatever. Hey, you know what? I've learned with Star Trek fans, we have extremely polarized opinions about every single thing in that franchise, and the flip side of that is there's a Star Trek for everybody.
That's probably true, yeah. I mean, I know people out there who like Discovery.
Hey, Steven hates Season 3 Picard. All right. I can't talk you out of it, and I'm not going to bother, so if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah. I actually lived with someone for a little while who really liked Star Trek Discovery. That was weird.
You know what? I remember telling people that I was like super into Enterprise, like when it had just really gotten going on syndication on Sci-Fi. And they were like, ew, Enterprise, because it was the new kid on the block, right? So it was unpopular with some of the Legacy fans. And I was just like, I don't care if you don't like it. I freaking love it. It got me back into Star Trek. And then now, like, 20, 30 years later, God, I can't believe it's like 20 years since fucking came on. Now people are like, oh my God, Enterprise is great. Like, it's really fun and da-da-da. And so, time kind of settles a lot of that down. But
I mean, I liked Star Trek when it was, or Enterprise when it was airing. I didn't like it as much as I liked necessarily all the other shows. But I still liked it. I watched it. It became
my Star Trek.
Yeah.
Because of syndication.
We're going to hit play.
Anyway. They don't really show you and tell you the real facts behind it. The real facts, if you do a lot of digging, a lot of searching, and it's very difficult to do, you'll see that there's a lot of evidence that dinosaurs and birds are completely separate things.
What evidence specifically, Tim?
Drink.
Yeah.
This is painful.
So here's the thing, Tim. When you say there's lots of evidence, what I expect is that in a roughly hour-long podcast, that you would have provided some of it, and that your evidence would be better than like a 2006 or so paper that has already been nuked from orbit for almost 20 years. Like, I just feel like if there's lots of it, you should be able to produce some of it. Now, I know that on the spot, right? Like, you can't always come up with things, right? Like, if someone's just stops you on the street and is like, hey, what's the best evidence for evolution? I'm gonna stutter and be like, because I'm not ready for that, right? So I get that. But this isn't an off-the-cuff thing, right? This is, you had time to prepare for this. You knew this was coming, Tim. You brought nothing. Also, we got a few things.
Yes, girl, give us nothing.
Savage, they're evolutionizing our kids' Cobra for $4.99. Back in my day, Star Trek was apolitical. Idiots on the internet. Yeah, like...
Literally someone who's never watched Star Trek.
Yeah.
Ever.
Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, when did Star Trek become woke? The answer to that is September 8th, 1966.
Correct.
When Star Trek
Oh
became
my
woke.
God. Okay, see, now people are talking about the Enterprise theme song in the chat, and you, Dapper, know specifically that I love that theme song, and I will belt it out. I'm starting to think that might be a donation goal. If they get to a certain amount, I will sing the Enterprise theme song, and if they exceed the donation goal, I will put on one of my various Starfleet uniforms. I actually do have an Enterprise jumpsuit, and a baseball cap, and rank pins. And I'll do it in costume.
All right, well, let us know what the number is. I'm assuming it's going to be high.
I will... Well, to get me to go full out like that, yes. But not so high that it's not achievable.
Okay. All right.
I just want an excuse to wear the jumpsuit.
I'm being reminded that it's... Well,
Lion.
I'm being reminded that it's 10 past the hour. That's true. I just haven't felt like a break.
Does everyone need a break?
We'll take a break. Take a quick break. It's fine. I will play the Star Trek Lexington teaser trailer. Please do be aware that this week is the... we are actually playing on this Friday, the 8th. So the date that's given in the teaser is incorrect, because that was back when we were going to be playing on the 25th, but we ended up not playing the 25th, and we weren't going to be playing the 1st anyway, so now it's the 8th. Here we go. Next time on Star Trek Lexington.
Captain's Log, Stardate 5896.5. Now that we have finished repairs to the hull, engines, and sensors, the Lexington is once again ready to get back into deep space. We've been tasked by Admiral Banna Stoker to return to Kumbari 2. Apparently, strange emissions have been coming from an unexplored region on the side of the planet opposite of the Aurelian settlement, and we are to investigate. The mission has been marked as high priority and confidential. We're at warp now, and are due in the Kumbari system later today.
Kumbari 2 is a verdant M-class world full of lush vegetation and more than a few species of dangerous wildlife. Now it seems to hold a secret buried beneath its ancient surface. The crew must avoid the natural dangers of this untamed wilderness, but it would appear that they are not alone. A familiar face is also interested in the ruins, and not for simple scientific discovery. Can the crew discover the source of the strange readings and avoid being eaten, all before their rivals find the source themselves? Find out on October 25th, 2024, only on the Top Hats Off channel.
And we are back. Welcome back, everyone. With Vishanti having a lovely NX01 cap there. I like it. Get the command ball cap.
Yeah, it's also, like, you can tell it's the accurate one because there's a separate panel here, which a lot of, yeah, it's details anyway.
All right. Donald Hermino for $2 says, non-woke Trek equals mirror universe. I mean, to some extent, yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, that's not wrong.
All right, so now that we're back from a quick break, I just want to let everyone know that first, thank you so much for all your support, all your generous super chats, gifted memberships, all that stuff. It really does mean a lot because the channel only operates at the level that it does because of your generosity. Because you guys are providing me with enough that I can pour 40, 60-ish hours per week into video production, scouting videos for live streams, scouting videos for future scripted videos, working on fun extra avatars, working on, thumbnails, all that stuff. Without you guys, I would not be able to pour nearly as much time into that. And the channel, I think, would be greatly diminished as a result. That being said, if you are currently not supporting financially and that's something you're interested in, there's a number of great ways. Right below this video, there's a join button. You can just join the channel. There's also the Patreon is listed in the description. That's where I get to keep the most. Patreon and the channel memberships both get you early access to my scripted videos. They both get you access to my cool Discord server, where I definitely never have to tell people that I'm putting one of the channels on slow motion because it's getting a little bit too heated. But yeah, there's other perks at higher tiers. And if a monthly or an annual thing isn't your deal, there's also, I have a wish list in the description. There's also a merch store in the description as well as below this video. And yeah, also go check out Vishanti's channel because she also has a Patreon and a wish list if you want to help her out. And also in the description, there is a wish list for Benthoven. He recently just got a whole bunch of different foods and snacks, which he's very appreciative of. He got like 12 cans of refried beans. He loves those. Much appreciated. And also, I want to say, I did get a Christmas gift recently. I'm not sure if I should thank this person now or if I should wait till Christmas. So I just want to say thank you to the person who got me Christmas gifts early. And if you want me to thank you soon, let me know. If you want me to wait until December, late December, let me know. So, with that being said, Arachamian has just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships.
Hooray!
Let's take 5 drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Zane is not plaid. Says beans to go with Tapper's rice. I'm down to 2 whole bags of rice. Actually, like 1 and a half.
God. No.
But yeah, I haven't had to buy rice in like a year and a half or something. I don't know.
And only birds at this point. Anything that has ever been discovered, anything with feathers is still a bird.
Okay, but that's by you're just arbitrarily defining it that way, right? One of the tricks that creationists use is the ambiguity over the word bird. Debate Hub says, would you come onto my channel to have a discussion? I know I'm small, but I'd really love to chat with you sometime. Debate Hub, DM me and we'll set something up. Don't worry about it. I'm sure we can figure something out. In case... Debate Hub, is this supposed to be a secret still? Is that what's happening? Because I feel like it's not a secret. Let me know if it's supposed to be a secret.
I'm like, this is all kayfabe, right?
I don't even know. I don't know what the rules are. I have not been fully informed.
Well, anything that's a dinosaur did not have feathers. And again, the T-Rexes, even the secular scientists admit, did not have feathers.
Again, not quite. But also, look, remember back when I said anything with a blowhole is a whale, and if it doesn't have a blowhole, it's just a mammal? That's all he's doing. He's picking one particular aspect of birds and saying, this is how I'm going to define birds. And then I'll define dinosaurs in some other way. But here's the thing, right? Let's say I said, okay, any animal with 3 horns on its face is actually Triceratops. Any animal that doesn't have those 3 horns on its face is a dinosaur. Therefore, Triceratops isn't a dinosaur. See where I've made a mistake here? My characteristic for what a Triceratops is might be reasonable. Saying anything with feathers is a bird. I'm okay with that as a definition for bird, right? Like, that doesn't actually bother me. But then the corollary, and therefore not a dinosaur, doesn't follow. Because you haven't established the necessary requirement that dinosaurs can't have feathers. You also haven't given us any reason to know what dinosaurs are, so we could even assess that. Got a couple super chats here. Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, but some skunks are flowers. I have heard about that, yes. Savage, they're evolutionizing our kids. Cobra for $4.99 says, so was I right that ICR thinks pterosaurs are birds? I don't believe so. But I've also not really heard ICR talk much about pterosaurs in particular. I would love to.
Yeah, I'm with Obstinate Sparrow is saying, wait, so giraffes are actually triceratops?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. Although,
All right.
I could also point out that giraffes technically don't have horns, they have ossicles. So, take that.
Let people have fun.
I'm the fun police.
Why are you allergic to fun?
I'm the fun police. I feel like you should have already realized. You've known
Yes.
me long enough to know that I'm the fun police.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who comes by and says, well, actually...
Actually...
Except when it comes to biblical angels. Sorry, Dan McClellan. I know they're not actually angels from the book of Ezekiel, but I don't care. I'm still going to call them biblically accurate
It's like,
angels.
let people have fun. It's
funny.
funny.
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy the memes. And, like, the weird, like, CGI art of, like, biblically accurate angels with way too many eyes. Yeah, I'm just going to still enjoy that. It's an aesthetic that I like.
Ophanim. Yep, love it.
It's just like when I'm watching, like, a horror movie and someone's like, oh, it's the demon Moloch. I'm not going to sit around and say, like, well, actually, Moloch was the name of a kind of sacrifice and not actually a deity worshipped in ancient Mesopotamia. No. I'm just going to have fun with the movie. I'm just going to do it.
Just going to let them have fun. God, that movie was...
In case you guys don't know, Moloch was not the name of an actual deity ever worshipped in the ancient.
Which I recently learned within the last 6 months.
Yep.
So.
Although, also, we've watched 2 movies where the main bad antagonist supernatural entity was... And one of them wasn't the one we just watched recently.
Yeah, actually that movie was Moloch.
Yeah, but they were obviously referencing the same thing. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Over the course of the next few years, you'll see more and more groups of dinosaurs. Well, this one didn't have feathers, and this one did, and this one. And eventually, they're gonna maybe.
It's weird because the actual trend is going the other way. We're finding evidence of feathers in
more
groups
and more of them did.
Yeah, we're now at the point where like the groups of dinosaurs that have feathers have known to have feathers because of specimens with feathers is now larger than the number of groups that aren't. Like groups that we actually have a good reason to think probably didn't have feathers, like Ceratosauroidea. Sauropods at least, maybe Sauropodomorpha, the larger group. And then like not even all ornithopods, some ornithopods, we have some skin impressions like actual hadrosaurs. But even then within ornithopoda, like we have some like heterodontosaurids that seem to have feathers. So like maybe Hadrosauridae within ornithopoda. I guess we don't have any evidence either way for like Pachycephalosauridae, but we do know that in the wider Marginocephalia, which includes the ceratopsians had feathers. At least some of them did. So like it's actually pretty hard to find a group that we don't have direct evidence for feathers or proto-feathers in. And that the number of groups has only ever gone up.
Some awe in the chat is saying, wait, does that mean that biblically accurate angels aren't actually biblically accurate? Actually, no. What we think of as, quote, biblically accurate angels are just a depiction of the Ophanim, which are wheels within wheels with eyes all over it. Those aren't actually angels. Those are part of, like, the mobile throne of God that Ezekiel sees.
They're Ezekiel-y accurate
angels typically just
beings,
look like,
but yeah.
Yeah, they just look like people, but kind of different and, like,
maybe shiny.
Freaky somehow. Yeah, shiny or something, so... But that's okay, I don't care, it's a meme and it's funny. So.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those, like... The meme is not very accurate. But it is fun. So, Savage, they're evolutionary...
That's just like they're a specific clade of angels.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna call him now.
They're evolutionizing our kids' Cobra for $4.99. Says, I've seen one young Earth creationist on record that giraffes are sauropods. Sorry, giraffes and sauropods are the same kind. Of course, he's crazier than Carl Baugh. The closest I've come to that is I've seen Cindy Lincoln in giving her Science Center tour, Dinosaur Adventureland, say that maybe some sauropods were mammals because there was an ichthystone in which it looked like a baby sauropod was suckling at the belly of a larger sauropod.
No.
And I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it in the video that I did, because I want to be nice to Cindy. I still do. But also, I was thinking to myself, how do you come to the conclusion that you should take the ichthystone more seriously than the actual preserved anatomy of sauropods?
No.
And
that's painful.
Because to me, any normal person would look at a picture of a sauropod suckling and say, well, that's a reason to think that this stone isn't authentic.
Yep.
Instead, Cindy, wanting the stone to be authentic, then decided to just question the actual anatomy that we know of for dinosaurs. And I just don't... That just couldn't be me. I don't understand how you get to that point. I mean, I know intellectually that it's things like, confirmation bias, cognitive dissonance, the fact that evolution being true is a threat to her deeply held core beliefs and identity markers and all that. Like, I get that from an intellectual standpoint, but from, like, a deep emotion level, I just can't get there. I just don't get it. All right, here we go.
They correct themselves, but it's difficult when you get that perception out there in the public, and that's what they've been really good at, is taking ownership over the museums and over the movies.
People are good at communicating sient.
This just sounds like Nathan Thompson complaining about the fact that the Earth is shown as a globe in movies. That's just... I'm going to take a drink.
Cry about it.
The more I look at things like other kinds of conspiracy theories, pseudoscience nonsense, like flat Earth or anti-vax or climate change denial, the more I see that they're all the same. They all are doing the same thing. Like, the climate change people are like, why is everyone always blaming everything on climate change? It's like, well, one, it's not everything. And two, it's because some things are caused by climate change. That's why we blame it on climate change. Like, not every single hurricane is the fault of climate change. It's like, yeah, without climate change, we would still have hurricanes. That's true. But we know that their frequency and intensity is being increased by climate change. Like, we know that for a fact. So we're like, I can't believe in all these movies they show the Earth as a globe. It's propaganda. Or look at all these video games that have chemtrails in them. They're just trying to normalize the chemtrails. It's like, no, dude, just planes leave contrails. And a video game that has planes in it that wants to be realistic is going to have contrails. That's it. My Unfinished Journey for $6.66 says, Hail Nero, Hail Daps and Vish, and Hail Mammalian Sauropod. Oh no. Sauropods aren't mammals, everybody. I can say this with high degrees of certainty. But yeah, the Creationists are just doing the same thing. Like, I can't believe they're showing these feathered dinosaurs in these movies. In fact, I've seen a Creationist complain about a dinosaur in a movie having feathers that Creationist thought was a bird in the first place.
Amazing.
Joel Lineweber complained about the depiction of Pyroraptor in Jurassic World Dominion because he thought it was silly that it had feathers. But Joel Lineweber thinks the Dromaeosaurs are birds, and the Pyroraptor in Jurassic World Dominion portrayed as a dromaeosaur. Now, is Pyroraptor a dromaeosaur? Right now, as far as I know, it's still a toss-up between Unalagid and Dromaeosaur. I don't know where he stands on Unalagids because, quite frankly, he's probably never heard of them because they're not one of the ones that you see featured in movies very much. But either way, he still thinks that dromaeosaurs are birds, which means he thinks that movie was depicting a bird. Really what he should have been complaining about is how, quote-unquote, reptilian it was. But whatever. Let's see what else we got for Tim. And yeah, I am trying to break him up a little bit because the more of their music that he plays, the more likely this stream is to be monetized. So, my Unfinished Sock for $2 says, make sauropod faces with your socks and like and share. Yes, please do like and share. It is, in fact, an important aspect of this channel getting additional growth. Because, hey, who knows? Maybe we could hit 14K this month. That'd be nice, right?
That would be good.
Showing what they want dinosaurs to look like and put feathers on them. but that's not based on any factual evidence whatsoever.
Except for the fossils. Let's remember the fossils. The fossils are there. That's an important aspect of this. You know.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Clary. If you guys wanted to know anything else, we actually do have a resource by our very own Dr. Clary here.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No.
I might have to get a hold of that and see what's in there.
God. You know, I showed you the books that I still have downstairs from when I was a young Earth creationist, right? I have some of the Henry Morris books.
Oh, you did show me some of them, yeah.
Yeah, and we can go through those at any time.
That would probably be an interesting idea. That might be something to look at.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, it does seem like there was a generally positive sentiment for there being a... So I guess next time I will set a super chat goal. So basically what it is I set a number of super chats at a certain tier or higher and then a number of minutes. And then if you meet the goal, I'll do a thing. So I guess that's a thing that I'll try out next time. Marco Agamotto 1313 Smith for $2 says, well, wait until after Bilbo. No, you want to not get Bilbo. Getting Bilboed is the penalty. You're not supposed to want to get Bilboed. You can find people into anything.
Hey, some people are into that.
Exactly. So I'm actually kind of curious to see what Dr. Tim Clary has to say about dinosaurs. Because one of the things is, like, it doesn't seem like it's a book that's just about the dinosaur-bird connection. It seems like it is just dinosaurs from his perspective. And I know that he has some wild takes on dinosaurs just generally. So the other thing is, I don't want to give ICR money. So I'm not sure what to do. And I don't want anyone else to give ICR. But I would like to be able to have the text of that book. So I will have to think about that. Because
I mean, you could buy it secondhand off like eBay or something, or like a reseller.
Yeah. I'll look into that. Because it would be an interesting book to have and to look. I have a number of creationist books.
E-books. There's a whole bunch of like.
I'm gonna find my hard copy of Scientific Creation. Like, that seems to have just been lost. I just don't have it. Which is too bad, because I had a bookmark on it in one of the places where the actual table of data that Henry Morris puts in his own book debunks the entire point of the argument that he used that data.
Incredible.
Yeah. He's doing the whole, like, mineral accumulation time in the oceans, where it's like, oh, how could the Earth be 6 billion years old if it only takes 12,000 years to get this much sodium into the ocean? And the reason I have it bookmarked is because his own table lists how much time it would take for the level of aluminum to accumulate. And it's 100 years.
Wow.
It's 100 years.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, if this is an actual way to get an upper limit on the age of the Earth, and the upper limit of the age of the Earth is 100 years. So everything in the Bible is fake. Everything. The American Civil War didn't happen. Revolutionary War didn't happen. War of 1812 didn't happen.
Right.
Like,
sure.
The whole Napoleonic campaigns didn't happen. According to Henry Morris's own argument. And that's why I bookmarked that. Because the thing is, this level of self-defeating nonsense from creation isn't a new phenomenon, right? They've been doing this since the very beginning. At no point did they ever have an actual coherent set of arguments that actually were both true and indicative of the truth of their distinctive claims. Pibblepun Capdog Half Canine for $2 says, The Rocks Were There, available now. Yes, that is an excellent book. And also, part 2, or volume 2, I suppose, is currently being worked on. I'm in touch with both of the authors, obviously. And I have it firsthand, now giving it to you secondhand. We'll have it third hand, that they are currently just plowing through different chapters of that book.
Nice.
Also, things like stuff that I find out and cover on this is getting incorporated into the book, because very frequently I'll point something out, and then RJ or Jackson will be like, well, didn't know about that. That's going in the book. Like, yes.
Awesome.
Excellent.
I love what Baba Ali in the chat says. Jimmy Carter is the first human confirmed.
Exactly. He's the actual Adam.
He's the actual Adam.
Oh, man. What's the species he's trying to drive to extinction? Is it screwworms? I think it's screwworms. I'm with him on that.
I don't know, but I would support the mass extermination of mosquitoes.
Yeah, there's a few different. There's very few animals that I would support making extinct, but human targeting mosquitoes are one of them. Mosquitoes that don't target humans, I don't care that much. Screwworms are another one. Bot flies are another one. Okay, we get rid of bot flies. I mean, screwworms are basically the same thing, but
just stop.
Worse somehow. So yeah, those are yeah. Basically things that eat human flesh while the human is still alive, those things can go. I don't need them. We don't. Actually, botflies were exterminated in North America not that long ago, in like the mid 20th century. The United States of America spent a whole lot of money getting rid of them, not just from the United States, but from the United States, Canada, Mexico, and then down into Central America. In fact, they still maintain chemical and biological warfare, basically, against botflies from them creeping farther north. So to this day, the United States has ecological initiatives in Central American countries that the entire point of them is to keep botflies below a certain parallel, so they do not infect humans or livestock above that parallel. And I do think the United States would, if they thought they could, try to do that throughout all of South America, but like, good luck eliminating botflies in the freaking Amazon. Like, what are you physically going to do to get rid of the botflies in the Amazon? It's just not going to happen. Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, has Jimmy Carter been driving nails to extinction? I mean,
jeez, with all the houses he builds.
He has been driving a lot of nails, but I don't think to extinction. Here's one of the things about nails is the more you use of them, the more they get made. At least in a market. There were nail shortages in the Soviet Union. One of my favorite ones was there were nail shortages of particular nails because nail quotas were given to the nail factories in terms of units of mass. Like, you need to produce this many kilograms of nail. Well, as you might not know, or might know, if you didn't meet your quota in the Soviet Union, it was really, really bad. But if you did, it was actually pretty cool. You might get like a cushy vacation or extra privileges, or things like that. And so basically every single factory strove to meet the quota as exactly as possible, but also as easily as possible. And the thing is, it turns out that it's way easier to make one big nail than it is to make lots of little nails. So for a while, the Soviet Union had a problem.
Compliance.
Yeah, for a little while, the Soviet Union had a problem where like the only nails being produced were like foot-long giant spikes for starting out roofing or something. I was like, look, comrade, I have made 4,000 kilograms of nail. It's like, okay, but
I love it. Malicious compliance is one of my favorites.
Are they all like 30-centimeter nails? Da, comrade. So, yeah. Okay. Or the same thing happened with chandeliers. There's actually a bit where Stalin went off about how he was going to kill all the chandelier makers because chandeliers kept collapsing. Because chandelier factories were also a thing, and they also had requirements in units of mass. So they made the freaking heaviest chandeliers imaginable that pulled themselves out of groups, falling on people.
Incredible.
It turns out that while there are definitely problems with unregulated markets, turns out a single command economy also doesn't really work out. Because then you get stupid things like that. Let's see. Heather Schrodinger's Fossil Coon says, Jimmy Carter trying to eliminate guinea worms. Okay, guinea worms, thank you.
Okay.
Then for £2, I say then even though. Ben sloping gracefully toward the mouth thick tunicate says, AIG are prodigious pack of protruding poles. We will take a drink for that. Thank you very much. Making sure I didn't miss any. Okay. Then Jester, Lord of Shenaniganery, who's been a member for 12 months and is at the Tetramall level, says, Heathens, embrace next Wednesdayism. Procrastinate.
Procrastinate.
Nice, I like it.
I subscribe to this.
And then Ben, sloping gracefully toward the mouth, thick tunicate, gifted 10 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. So, let's update the funding thing, although I don't think we're going to get to it, but that's okay. And take 10 drinks. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have to open up my next drink. This is a prepackaged whiskey mule, by the way. In case anyone.
I had sworn off of whiskey for many, 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 many years. And
how do you not drink?
Because bad
keep going, keep drinking.
memories as a teenager. Just the smell of it was enough to make my stomach churn. But I started trying whiskey sours, and now I'm like, hey, I will drink whiskey in this form.
Okay. We just got another 5 gifted memberships from Joshua Geese. We'll take 5 more drinks.
Ooh.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, let's get a little bit more Timothy in here.
This is Dinosaurs. It's Marvels of God's Design. And if you also want to see Dr. Clary with the mustache, that is featured on the back.
I've seen it. It's not great.
I'm alright.
I know we get lots of requests for that. I'm just kidding. But thank you so much, Dr. Clary.
No, she doesn't. She admitted it. Which, it's fine. A little joke.
For joining us today. I feel like you gave us a better understanding of...
How do you feel like that? Like, I would love to sit down and talk with Ivana here. And, watch one of these through with her.
Just...
Not.
Well, I mean,
need to ask
when someone speaks confidently about something and drops in just enough technical terms to make it sound like they know what they're talking about. Yeah.
So for me, what I would like to do, and Ivana, if you ever watch this, I mean, I'm willing to, I would like to do this. I would like to, at some point, just sit down with Ivana and watch one of these podcasts. And then ask her specifically about the things that she says in her closing statement. Well, I think you really clarified a lot of things. And I just want to look at her and say, Ivana,
what did he
specifically what has been clarified by?
Yeah.
What new information that is true about dinosaurs and or birds did you learn from Timothy Clary over the course of this hour or so podcast? Please be specific. I don't want to be a dick about it. I don't want it to be confrontational. I just want to know what is in your head that you think that you've learned anything out of this? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just I want to know. Because the thing is, she's not alone in thinking that this is something that's been informative and insightful. That's seems to be the general consensus among fans of the Institute for Creation Research. Okay, now we have had an additional 20 Dapper Dinosaur memberships gifted.
Woo! Man,
so,
y'all making it rain
thank
today.
You very much. And then also, Donald Jaramillo for $2 says, John Landis, the saint of next Wednesdayism. So I guess it's time. Shanti, would you like to tell a wonderful story about something while I try to take 20 drinks?
All right, I can tell you a story about something, I suppose. I'm not sure what genre of something you want me to tell the story in. Any preference?
Give us another Star Trek anecdote.
A Star Trek anecdote. Okay. So the first time I ever went to DragonCon was to see the Enterprise actors. Dominic Keating was there in 2008, and I had just been to my first Star Trek convention in Las Vegas, which is the big Star Trek convention of the year. And yeah, I went and had seen Dominic. He was really chatty, very friendly. He sold me some of his own personal props that he had taken home from the show when it finished wrapping. We got to hang out a little bit, grab some burgers, and at the table near to him early on in the convention, Cliff Simon was there, and then as, guests would leave throughout the weekend, according to whatever days they were available, guests would kind of condense their tables down, so Cliff ended up sitting right next to Dominic.
Okay.
And so I got to meet and chit-chat with Cliff Simon. We took some really cute, little selfies together. And that's where I met Lady Tavora, who I call my sister because literally she's the sister I never had. And we celebrate DragonCon as our kind of friend anniversary. And I remember she had given me a necklace with a menorah on it and things like that. And we gifted one to Cliff Simon because he's Jewish, and I remember that meant a lot to him. And then Yeah, he passed away a couple years ago in a tragic accident, and that was really sad. But I always have really fond memories of that and really cherish them. And I think about it pretty much every year when I go to DragonCon. I think about it. My sister and all the little memories there. So
Nice.
yeah. Warm fuzzies.
All right. Well, thank you. I managed to get through 20 drinks. It wasn't easy because this has a lot of ginger beer in it, and I can still feel the little tingle in my throat from all the ginger.
Of why feathered
Not a
dinosaurs
flavor I like.
are an inaccurate interpretation of the fossils. And of course, to all of our viewers,
It's not even an interpretation, right?
That's not even an interpretation.
You just look at the fossil and you're like, oh, look, it's just full of feathers. Okay. It's an interpretation in the same way it's less like, well, I think this is the skull. And as you're looking at, like, you know, the orbits and the nares and the teeth and whatnot, I guess technically that's an interpretation. But, like, if we're going to say that feathers on dinosaurs are an interpretation, then just them being the remains of organisms is itself an interpretation. Because remember,
Yeah, that's
the actual,
insane.
just the idea that fossils are actually the remains of organisms is itself an interpretation that was not always universally held. There was a time when one of the leading contentions for what fossils were was that basically it was just Earth playing goofs on humans.
Mhm.
Sometimes the Earth just produced rocks that happen to look like skeletons or bones or shells. You know, it just happens sometimes. Earth is weird. Which, I mean, to be fair, it is weird. But, like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it took actual science for people to come to the conclusion that, yeah, fossils are actually remains of organisms. So in that sense, sure. But here's the thing, right? If you were to take the radical skepticism that creationists display about fossil evidence, you couldn't actually come to the conclusion that fossils are even skeletons or shells or whatever they are, right? You look at, I think it was on this show, Dapper Reacts. It might not have been while you were here. It might have been. But we had a guy who was like, well, how do we know that this organism had lungs? I'm like, I don't know. The same way we know it had eyes. Like,
What?
we didn't find
Oh my
fossilized
God.
lungs. It's like, that's true. We didn't find fossilized skin either, but I'm still pretty sure it had skin, buddy. And like,
Ugh.
yeah, it's, oh, we just got 10 more gifted memberships. My goodness. Oh, do people want to get the fancy avatar? That's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's what they're
That's what it
trying
is.
to do.
Okay. Well, let's take 10 more drinks. 1, 2.
They
Three.
were also asking, what would it take for you to vomit? Like, how many drinks does it take for you to get that sick and throw up?
I have vomited after drinking one time, and it was not because of the amount of alcohol. It was because of a combination of the alcohol and the food that I had, which was Dark and Stormies with bratwurst with Japanese fixins.
Okay.
It was not a good combination.
All right.
I shouldn't have done it, and I threw up the next day. But I did win myself some Warhammer miniatures that day because I won a bet.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Well, yeah, at the time it was less, but it was still pretty significant. I think I got a squad of 5 Space Marine Terminators. Because we were drinking and eating and playing Warhammer in the basement. So, and it was my Space Marines and my friend's Sisters of Battle against my friend's Orcs and my other friend's Necrons, I want to say. We're doing 2v2. So, yeah. So basically, if you get me to drink a lot more than you have at this point, a lot more. And then also, like, somehow manage to send bratwurst with, like, wasabi mayo and nori and shredded cabbage and some sesame oil. Then maybe I'll throw up. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Oh, it's the guy who was playing Orcs. He was a guy who I won the one and only Warhammer tournament I was ever in. It was a doubles tournament. We decided to get new armies. So I got a Chaos Demon army. He got an Orc army. And we won that tournament. We went into an official Warhammer store, won the tournament, won Best Painted, walked away with prizes, and then basically never walked back into that store ever again. We just walked in one day, swept a tournament, and left. And apparently the customers did not appreciate that. It was just like, oh well. We were also pretty mean to this one kid, but he was consistently trying to cheat. So we're like, all right, nope. Because one of the easiest ways to cheat in Warhammer is that you measure from your measuring movement. You start at the front of your miniature, and then you put the back of your miniature at the end of the tape measure, so you're getting the length of the base as extra movement. We noticed him doing that consistently, and we're like, not okay. Josh Wickies for $10 says, point of order, not trying to get Dapper to vomit. I do appreciate that. And then Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine, says, orcs are objectively the funniest 40k faction. I agree. Yeah. I can't disagree there. I'm trying to think if anything even comes close. Not really. I mean, they really are the comic relief of Warhammer 40k, a setting which started out with a lot of comedy, but as time went on and it just sunk harder and harder into like the over-the-top grimdark, the orcs are some of the only people who have retained the comedy. Like, there used to be a lot of funny jokes about like Imperial stuff, and it just got like way too... It takes itself too seriously now. Although I do also still find it very amusing that there are people who are like, unironically, the Imperium is the good guys. And it's usually like on like terminally online 4chan trolls who are like, yeah, the Imperium, man, they're actually the good guys. Like, no, dude, they're
the same people that don't understand the whole point of Starship Troopers.
Yeah, like they're an intentionally over the top parody of like theocracy and fascism. Like that's the whole point of the faction, is to show you that this is bad actually, and you shouldn't want this. Right? Just like the Tau Empire is an over-the-top exaggeration of the excesses that people that are way too far to the left can get into, where they do things like, well, maybe we should actually secretly sterilize some people for the greater good. Or maybe this particular group of people are too subversive, and we should actually just kind of get rid of all of them for the greater good, you see. Which is a thing that happens. Which is why it's an okay thing to have parodies of it. Because, yeah, it turns out that totalitarianism and tyranny are not actually the exclusive domain of the political right. As it turns out. We have 5 new gifted memberships from Regios, which also means that Bent gets a free pizza, and we hit our goal. So 1, 2, 3, 4,
All
and
picks
5.
Says Johnny Rico is Filipino plot twist.
Wait.
I'm listening.
Yeah, tell us more about Johnny Rico being Filipino.
I'm listening.
All right, so while you work on getting that into the chat, we're going to start wrapping up. Vishanti, is there anything that you want people to know about that's coming up on your channel? Or any place you're appearing that isn't your channel?
This week was a wash. It was just not good for me physically or mentally, so all of the things that I had set out to do basically just didn't get done, and I'm very disappointed over that. However, it is about to be a new week, and I can hopefully achieve those goals.
That's on your horror movie quota?
I did not... I worked on my horror movie quota. That was nice. I did fulfill a promise I made in the spring, so that was good. Just for the other personal projects and like things like the videos that I have in the pipeline for like Patreons, like Josh Geekis, those are still coming. I just got set back, and it's frustrating when that happens. So I think maybe my short-term/long-term solution is I just need to go to whoever my primary care doctor is and be like, listen, I need help with this wiring. Can you please give me something that helps? Because it's impacting the quality of my life. Thanks.
I call that your think bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Like bullshit. And
the electric thinky meat is not doing its job.
Yeah, that happens. It's never fun. All right, well, let's take a look at what's coming up on this channel. So on Tuesday, we have the No Election Talk election stream. Tuesday is, in fact, November 5th. It is election day here in the United States. If you are a United Statesian, please go vote if you are registered. If you are not registered, check to see what the registration rules are in your state, because many states have registration all the way up to the same day.
Day of.
Register on the 5th and vote that same day. If you are not registered to vote and you are allowed to vote in the United States, please check your registration if you have not already voted. If you have already voted, awesome. good job. If you haven't,
I did.
go vote. You've only got a few more days. If you're someone who's currently unhappy with the direction the country is going, there's very little you can do about it. And in fact, I'm going to be honest with you, even voting is probably not going to, on its own, your vote, change anything. However, it is literally the only direct way for you to influence that. So you might as well go for it. But on the stream, there's a rule. No election talk.
No talking about that.
If you talk about the election on the No Election Talk stream, we'll get a timeout. Don't tell us election results. Don't tell us polling results. Don't talk about the candidates. Don't talk about their policies. Don't talk about their histories. None of that. If it seems like it's
just a break from all that.
Yep. If it seems like election related, you will get a timeout. And I'm encouraging my mods to increase the timeout amount based on how many times you violated this. Now, it is not a channel ban offense, right? I don't want my mods to ban anyone for talking about the election. Heather says, I misplaced my mail-in ballot and need to get to the local election satellite office for a new ballot. We'll get out there. So that's on Tuesday. That's going to be Kent with Ben. Oh, sorry.
Vulpix, Fox Have Pokemon says, in the books, it was a plot twist at the end that Johnny Rico was Filipino, unlike corn-fed McStrongjaw from the movie.
I didn't know that. Also, how is that a plot twist? Like, is the plot heavily dependent on him not being Filipino until suddenly he is? Okay, hey. Now I'm trying to remember where it was. Oh, right. Okay, Tuesday. So that's Tuesday. Then on Thursday, I'm going to be releasing Can Creationist Logic? Frank Turek, it's the Frank Turek Part 2. So I know a lot of you like the Frank Turek Part 1.
That first part was painful.
It was, but Part 2 is going to be even more painful. So hooray! So yeah, that's going to come out. On the bright side, I'm going to be surfing on top of a Federation starship throughout the entire video. So, because I just had a weird idea that day that I was getting the animation together, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to put the Dapper Dinosaur on top of a Vesta-class Federation starship. And if you don't know what the Vesta class is, read more of the Deep Space Nine follow-on novels. Because the Vesta-class starship is the kind of starship that Ezri Dax goes on to captain books.
Aw.
Yeah.
Cool. So apparently the answer to your question of like why this was a plot twist in Starship Troopers is racism, which was my assumption.
Yeah.
And Vulpix clarifies it's seemingly a throwaway line, but if you're a white guy who put himself in the shoes of and identified with Johnny Rico in the book, it could be jarring. So.
I guess maybe. I can't put myself in those shoes, because as a dinosaur, I have trouble identifying with human protagonists anyway. So I never really put myself in their shoes, because, you know. All right, so that's Thursday.
I don't know why my brain, for whatever reason, keeps misidentifying Johnny Ringo from Tombstone with Johnny Rico from Starship Troopers, and that's hilarious, but also very incorrect. So...
Savage, they're evolutionizing our kids Cobra for $4.99 says Dapper's lucky to have so many masochists in his audience. It's actually not luck. It's actually you guys are self-selecting. That's the thing. You know how painful the creationists in my videos are, and you would like it, so you just choose to watch more of my videos. Okay, so that was Thursday. On Friday, we are going to be back with Star Trek Lexington. That is the plan. Assuming everyone can, enough people can make it, which has been pretty consistent most of the time. That is the plan, is to do that episode that you saw the teaser for at during the intermission. That will be at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. I had to think about it because it's changing for me. For me, it's going to be at 6 instead of, but that's not terribly important. Then on Saturday, mine is to be back. Vishanti, would you like to come back on Saturday?
Sure.
Well, there you go. That brings us one full week into the future. And with that, I think we are good unless you have any last thoughts.
The follow-up comment was regarding Johnny Rico.
Mm-hmm.
The book was written in the 50s, and then I remembered all the research I've done about my Filipino ancestry in the 50s, and yeah, that was not a great time. So, yeah. It was like, hey, a bunch of you fought in World War II, and we're gonna, totally grant you citizenship. And then like 5 minutes later, Truman was like, nah, just kidding.
Yeah. Although, there are still a lot of Filipinos in the United States military, because if you want to be a U.S. citizen and you're in the Philippines, joining the U.S. military, it's basically like Starship Troopers. Service guarantees citizenship.
Yeah, and that's the way it was up until the 50s, when America was like, no, we're just going to really go full tilt into some racism for a while. So, yeah.
As far as I know, that it is now that way again, though. Now it's much easier to get citizenship if you served in the U.S. military, which you can just join from the Philippines.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you can't do in the military because it requires citizenship to do those jobs because of security clearance requirements. But like, that's why Filipinos tend to dominate things like supply chain, supply officers and supply types.
Yeah,
of
that's
folks
literally the service records for both my grandfather and his dad, who was directly like off the boat from the Philippines. A lot of that, like they served in World War I, Korea, World War II. So.
Yeah. Apparently, on the last page of the book, it comes up that Johnny Rico's native language is Tagalog. Okay.
Dang, nice. All right.
All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. If you are interested, I am going to be watching episodes, I don't know, like 9, 10, 11, and 12 or something like that of Power Rangers RPM. We're starting out with the Yellow Ranger Part 2. So we left off on a cliffhanger. There you go. Her parents are back, and they want to enforce on her arranged marriage. She doesn't want to. Because apparently in the world of Power Rangers...
Like to Paul.
Apparently in the world of Power Rangers, rich white people have arranged marriages.
Ah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
To be fair, it is an alternate timeline. So maybe in that alternate timeline, that's more common. But anyway, thank you so much. I hope to see all of you on Tuesday, Election Day, for the No Election Talk election stream. And I will see all of you later. Bye.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Benthoven, Thurevara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Elron Teller, Ian Chen, Calvin Brostic von Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Sphincter of Doom, Wallace, Edwin M., North Texas Fossils, John Ackerman, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.